Hello and welcome to the Escape Podcast, your source for all good things in the universe and movies. Join us as we explore the vast reaches of science fiction, fantasy, action-adventure, and beyond. I'm your host, Josh, and with me is my good friend and the only other survivor of the USS Gibraltar, Dave.
Hello.
So, to give you a little background about Dave and I. We met in '95 when my family and I moved to a new city, and Dave was the first friend I made. We bonded over our mutual fondness for science fiction and specifically Star Trek.
Yes, it's true.
Yes. So that's a little bit about us. We are from Michigan. For those of you that might know, we are 30 minutes south of Detroit.
About, give or take.
Around there, and it's a bunch of little cities that we call downriver. That's where we're at.
We're river rats.
Yes. So we are going to do a lot of Star Trek, but we also are really into other types of things like Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, Star Wars, Ghostbusters. I mean, Marvel stuff, Batman. There's a lot of different types of things.
Basically, all the stuff you see in your standard comic book store.
Lord of the Rings, The Goonies, even not quite sci-fi, but I love it. So today we are going to talk about Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which is from 1979. It was directed by Robert Wise, and he was kind of known for movies like some of his big ones were Sound of Music, West Side Story, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and there's a lot of others. But I guess he was kind of said to be the director that could cover pretty much any genre. Now, back you got to put yourself back in the 60s here. So people who were big fans of the show back then, the show went off the air. The original series went off in '69, and during the '70s, the only thing that came out was the animated series, and it had Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, as a consultant, I believe, and then it had a lot of the writing staff from the original show, and it had the the cast, except for Walter. How do you say his name, Dave?
Walter Koenig.
Yes. Okay. Chekhov. He was the only one that wasn't on the show, but I do believe he did write an episode, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Well. Oh well. Anyway. Now.
It might be true. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be. So.
Never looked into it.
Okay. So basically, a little background on the movie is, it was going back and forth between being another show called Star Trek Phase 2 and also a movie, and I guess the bigwigs at Paramount or CBS or whatever kind of couldn't make up their mind, and until Star Wars came out in '77, they kind of wanted to grab that market of the big sci-fi movie. So that's when they finally committed to that. Why are you looking at me like that? Oh, you're looking at me like I'm making notes.
No, yeah.
Okay.
We're good.
So
I'll cut that part out.
Okay, no, that's fine. You can keep it in there. I don't care. So some things, I wanted to talk about with the motion picture was that it's often called the slow motion picture or the motionless picture, and it is slow, but I do feel it is kind of unfairly criticized. A lot of people compare it to 2001: A Space Odyssey, which came out in '68. But what's funny to me is that 2001 gets a very good reputation, but somehow Star Trek: The Motion Picture gets a bad reputation. And although it is not my favorite, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. Dave, anything on that?
It's funny you should mention people critiquing the movie. Okay. Because I really don't like this movie.
Really?
You will find today I have lots of critique.
Okay.
ready to go. I watched the movie earlier this week in preparation for this.
Yeah.
And before that, I hadn't watched the movie in over 10 years.
Okay.
I just don't like it.
Really?
It really is a hard thing for me to sit through.
Okay. Now there's two cuts of the movie. There's the theatrical cut, and then in 2001, Robert Wise did a director's cut.
And I would say, by the way, the director's cut is more enjoyable.
Okay.
I find even with the director's cut, even though it's, in my opinion, better than the original, it's still kind of hard to sit through.
Well, let me just say, so for this one, I chose to watch the theatrical cut because I don't think I've ever seen it before, but you say I have seen it at your place, and if I did, I just don't recall.
And I watched the director's cut for this.
Okay. Version. Now, what was I going to say? So I have some, kind of pros and cons about what I felt. I noticed
pros and cons.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. Obviously Vulcan looks a lot better. The statues and everything, that looks a lot better. And the fact that they actually added a star field at the beginning with the intro, that is better because it was before just a blank nothing with music. I will give it that, but I noticed they cut a lot of shots out that I was surprised about. Like at what was the observatory thing called at the beginning of the movie?
That big space station thing.
The Amegosa. Or is that it? No, that's
Generations.
That's in Generations.
I don't remember the name of the space station.
So a few things I like. So like the theme, which I remember when I first saw this movie, I thought,
good.
The Next Generation theme. And I remember you corrected me and said, no, that's the motion picture theme. Now, obviously, the Next Generation TV show sped it up a little bit, but it is a great theme. And although you could say, yeah, that's the motion pictures theme or that's TNG's theme, it's kind of really, you could put any clips of Star Trek and play that music, and it's kind of just the overall Star Trek theme, I think. It's a great theme.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay. And
logical.
Yes.
Flawlessly logical.
So one thing I want to talk about was there's that long shot of introducing the ship. Now a lot of people criticize that, but again, I'm
one of them.
Okay, so I put myself in that place, and you think, okay, you haven't seen this ship in 10 years. People in 79 not seen it last since 69, and we never seen it like this. And the thing is a refit from the old version, and it is a long shot, but here's how I've come to appreciate that shot. You get to see how big the Enterprise is, right? And when you see V'ger later, when you get a sense of how big the Enterprise is and how much bigger V'ger is, it really helps you understand, my goodness, this thing is, massive.
You're correct in saying that the long shot it gives you a sense of how massive it is. And I noticed that as I was watching the movie, they had the long shot of showing you V'ger.
Yeah.
And those shots of showing V'ger have been my all-time least favorite part of the movie.
Okay.
And I even timed it.
Really?
And I even counted how many times they did it, and I timed each one.
Okay.
And it's just agonizing
to
sit through. But here we go. Yeah, continue. We'll get to that later.
Okay. So basically, I was just saying that basically I can appreciate because it's like a lot of modern this is like the old school sci-fi where it's more about the mystery and the unknown, where a lot of modern sci-fi is very much about a good guy, a bad guy. They're shooting each other, whether it be guns or their ships. There's a formula, and old sci-fi was different, and this is more like that old sci-fi. And I'm not saying new sci-fi is bad, but there's something it's kind of nice to have at least one of the movies be like this. But let's talk about the whole V'ger Borg connection. So
yes, it's quite a big thing people like to talk about.
Yes. So even though it's not established, it's basically later kind of speculated by fans that V'ger kind of is met up with the Borg.
Well, plus they talk about it in novels.
Yes, but it's not considered canon.
I don't think. No, it's not. But I think it does go beyond fan. Fiction. It does. They did novelize it, and I think William Shatner.
Yes, in The Return.
The Return, he actually penned the idea originally,
right.
And he came up. I think I could be wrong.
No, I don't know if he did it originally, but I know he did it.
It was in that book.
One thing actually, real quick, I forgot to mention about V'ger's size. Okay, V'ger. Okay, so an AU is an astronomical unit, which is 93 million miles, which is approximately the distance from the Sun and the Earth.
Yes.
In the theatrical cut, V'ger is said to be 82 AUs.
Yes.
So what's that like? 7,626 million miles that thing's supposed to be? Is that the math right?
I'm not a mathematician.
Okay. And then the director's cut, they decided to shorten it from 82 to 2 AUs.
Did they?
Yes. In the original cut, it's that guy. It's the guy who was supposed to be the new Vulcan for the show because they didn't think Leonard Nimoy was going to come back. Is that still recording?
Yep.
All right.
Good.
Okay.
Something happened, but
okay. So yeah, it was shortened from 82 AUs to 2 AUs.
Okay.
Anyway, so basically, there's even a Spock line that says any show of resistance would be futile.
I noticed that.
And I never noticed that until I rewatched it, but it's very interesting to me. You see, after Star Trek Generation,
resistance is futile.
Right, exactly. And they, even now when they do the Borg sound, that sound is the V'ger sound. It's that V'ger sound cue that you get. That dong. I can't do it. The sound.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's it's now been used as the Borg sound. And okay, so yeah, the book we were talking about, it's a sequel to Star Trek Generations, and it was written by William Shatner with Judith and Garfield Reeves Stevens. And it kind of was cool because it incorporated elements of the motion picture Star Trek V and tied that thing to the Borg. And what was kind of interesting, when you get to the end of when Spock encounters the machine planet, you find out that the Borg kind of identify him already as assimilated because he mind melded with V'ger in Star Trek 1, which I thought was kind of cool.
And there actually is a third aspect to this whole V'ger Borg thing that you haven't mentioned yet, but I'm not surprised because it's not even... This is just pure fan speculation. Okay. There was an episode in the original series called The Changeling about a probe named Nomad, and it was a very similar situation to the whole V'ger thing. Okay. And a lot of fans speculate that V'ger and Nomad and the Borg are they're connected somehow.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's that.
Well, have you ever wondered though? Okay, if V'ger landed or fell into the gravitational pull or whatever, this machine planet, like, who made all these machines? Did some civilization make a machine and that machine broke away from its creators and it started just making more and more machines until it occupied an entire planet of machines?
Yeah, at this point,
they never say, but it's just ever wondered that?
Yeah, I don't know.
So anyway.
Oh, by the way, I will say I really enjoyed seeing Mark Leonard in the intro as a Klingon. Which was kind of bizarre.
This movie kind of gives us, like I said, the new theme, and it gives us the kind of tradition of captains who basically do a look over on their ship by shuttle pod, before they take command. They did it in the first episode, I believe, of Next Generation. I know they did it in Enterprise, where Archer kind of views the NX-01 from the outside and all that stuff. Remember, Trip scratches it?
Yeah.
It kind of starts that whole captain's flyby tradition. Obviously, the Enterprise refit looks amazing, I think.
Yeah, it does.
It's amazing, and even the interior looks great.
Yeah.
So
I would say set design is probably one of the highlights of this movie.
Yeah. And, the only thing about this movie, too, is, the cast looks the most like they did in the original series.
Correct.
Yes. So, a lot of people, the Klingons, let's talk about them. So, this is the first time you see them look the way they kind of do the rest of the whole series, but one thing I wanted to point out, is even really that didn't stay consistent, because the way they look in this movie, they don't look like that by the time you get to Star Trek 3.
You're right.
It's a very subtle ridge thing. They're smoother, actually, looking.
Right. I would say the changes are not as noticeable as they are from the original series to the motion picture.
But I just wonder why they decided to change the look every movie, every show.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this movie also gives us
license.
Yeah, I guess. This movie also gives us
just kind of give them a refined appearance.
But I like the more different look. I don't know. I kind of like them looking a little more alien, if you will, than just kind of smooth.
Right.
But this also gives us the Klingon theme, which pretty much was used.
Classic.
And is that a D7, the Klingon ship? In this movie?
I believe so.
That looks amazing.
Yeah.
That looks really cool. And it's a shame to me they never really used it too much. I think the next time they used it was, Star Trek 6? That was the Chancellor's ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Kronos 1, I believe.
Yeah. I will say, the design of this vessel it's streamlined. It's great.
You talking about the Klingon ship?
The D7, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's very similar to the ships seen in the original series.
Almost like their version of a refit.
Yeah. Not much different there, but I kind of want to. I don't know how to say this. When I first saw the ship on the screen,
Yeah.
I was torn because part of me was impressed with how the ship looked.
Mm-hmm.
The other part was so underwhelmed by the special effects. I mean, I don't know.
Really? See,
Like,
I thought the
feel
special
like
effects looked great.
The Enterprise, I feel like it looked so much better than anything else in the entire movie, and that might be a budget thing, where they spent more of special effects money on all the Enterprise hero shots,
Okay.
so to speak, and the rest of the space vessels might have not got as much money. I don't know.
See, I think the effects look great. The only thing I wasn't a fan of effects-wise was when it goes in the warp, that kind of rainbowy, very 70s looking.
Didn't like that either.
I'll give you that one, but I thought everything else looked pretty good. Obviously, Vulcan doesn't look that great in the theatrical cut versus but
the director's cut, it looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, it looks amazing. So uniforms. Everybody hates these uniforms.
Yeah,
However,
I was just about to say,
yeah,
uniforms are terrible. It's a hodgepodge of brown and tan and beige and gray, and it makes me want to vomit those colors.
well, but what do you think about Kirk's first uniform? I liked the very first one that he steps off that shuttle pod, which by the way is a great intro. I thought
it's a great uniform.
I like that
I
uniform.
wish he would have kept it on.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a
that
fan
was
of-
the only uniform that I thought looked really good.
Like everything else, he would like the short sleeves.
Yeah,
and like
that
the-
looked like a tennis
yeah.
tennis
Let's
player's
go
thing.
play some racket club.
Yeah, that was kind of stupid. And I did notice that
The uniforms on the space station were the worst of all. They were like these things that looked like something you'd be sleeping in. They were like these really baggy. The sleeves looked like they were twice as big as someone's arm.
Okay.
And they were tied together at the waist with like, it looked like a robe, except
Okay.
made out of like silk or something.
yeah.
It just looked so awful. So awful. I wanted to shoot my television.
So one of the things I noticed in the theatrical cut is some of the dialogue was really hard to make out what they were saying, which I never noticed before when I watched the director's cut. So that must have been something they fixed up.
But
I did notice that.
Okay, so I seriously don't understand why it seems like the audio of some of the dialogue in this movie seems worse than the audio quality of dialogue in other parts.
Okay.
And specifically even in the original series, there are parts of this movie where the quality, like for example, at around 39 minutes in, Decker's line immediately after Kirk finishes his log entry, and all of Spock's lines on the bridge around 59 minutes in, they all sound scratchy, and
Even the director's cut?
like
you're saying?
yeah, like
Oh.
there are some like really bad sound quality issues with this movie. It's so much so that I feel like I needed closed captioning in order
Really?
to understand. And the scene where Spock comes onto the bridge for the first time.
Yeah.
Spock sounds significantly clearer at 101. But the bridge probe scene, all the dialogue is destroyed.
Well,
Where it's like everything's loud and there's like the bright lights and everything, and the dialogue sounds like someone ran it through like a garbage disposal. or
I've
something.
heard before that the background displays for some of the science stations and stuff was it was before they could do I don't know, it was just louder to generate those types of graphics. So a lot of the set was noisy, and some of them had to redo their lines. I've heard that before, at least.
But the dialogue, for instance, again, the bridge probe scene, the dialogue got way worse than anything I've ever heard in the original series, which is 10 years prior. This is 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
Things should not be sounding worse than they did
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Right, I understand.
And I don't even know. It's a mystery to me how it could even get to that point.
Now, so you say you don't like the uniforms. Do you think they should have been wearing the original series show uniforms?
I don't know about that. I mean, granted, the Wrath of Khan uniforms are the best. They're just the best in my opinion.
Yeah.
But they could have come up with maybe some sort of modified original series uniform.
Okay.
That would have probably been, I think, in my opinion, more appropriate. But because the colors In the original series, they mean something, and in the spin-offs, they mean something. And with this, it's like I can't even tell what's what.
Right, I feel you on that. Did you know that apparently the reason that the TOS show altogether is so colorful is because apparently that was they finally were networks were pushing color TVs.
Yeah, so they wanted to give they
a lot of color to make that pop.
They really wanted to show.
Yeah, I didn't know that until
color
recently.
TV looks.
Yeah, I did not know that until recently. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've known that.
Now, what about the blur effect? You notice sometimes when Kirk's kind of in the front, there's that weird blur on the side. Like, I don't know what that was all about and why they didn't fix that for the director's cut.
Yes, I don't understand why some things seem to be out of focus more in the background than others. It doesn't present itself as a normal creative.
Yeah, but
blur.
why wouldn't they fix that? I wonder in 2001 for the director's cut.
Well, I don't even know if it was. It might have been like an artistic thing. I mean, obviously, I think from my experience with this, I kind of get the impression they meant to do it this way.
Really?
They did it on purpose. Let's see. At around 51 minutes, when Spock first comes onto the bridge, close up on Kirk.
Yeah.
It's very blurry behind his head, but then slightly to the right.
Yeah, where that guy's standing.
Significantly less blurry, and that guy is there. And I don't understand. I've never seen a camera behave in this way.
Yeah.
And so it was clearly intentional. It was clearly intentional. I don't understand it because I think it makes it look like crap, but it was clearly done on purpose. And so yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
So, getting back to the Klingons and how they changed their look, has it ever, you ever noticed how the the Romulans in the original series look just like Vulcans, which is basically humans with pointed ears and bowl haircuts, right?
Pretty much.
Okay, but once you get to the next generation, they decided to kind of add that thicker skull forehead thing. And what's funny is you have people who wanted to know why do the Klingons look this different in the show versus the movies.
Yes.
But I've never heard anyone say that about the Romulans. How come they look different? It's never been an issue. And the same thing with the Andorians. The Andorians, their antenna come out from the back of the head more, or the side, or whatever middle.
Yeah.
And then in Enterprise, they come out more like the front. Now, some people might say, well, it's kind of like some people have attached earlobes and some people have disattached. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
Maybe, but they've never said that. It's just kind of interesting.
Notice that the Romulan in Star Trek 6 went back to that classic look.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. You are right. I never thought about that.
And that was during TNG time.
Look at you.
So they could have, and I didn't even take notes on that. I just thought of that right now.
Wow.
They could have done that, but they didn't. They stuck to their guns with the Romulan look.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind them having a slightly different look.
No, neither do I.
But yeah. So, I don't know, man. I was kind of disappointed that there's not a lack of more aliens in the crew. I don't know, I kind of there's a few, but you can't really get good shots of them. I wish they would have had more diverse crew in terms of more alien creatures type, serving with Starfleet on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
And they didn't really do that, and I don't know why.
It might have been a budget thing. I mean, this is their first outing as a movie, and they probably spent that money elsewhere. So probably set design.
We were talking about budgets and movies that came around the same time. So Star Wars came out in 1977. I guess that cost $11 million. Okay.
Okay.
Superman came out in 1978, and that was 55. Now, the motion picture came out in 1979. I guess it had a $15 million budget, but it ended up going up to $46 million. So, they had money come, you know what I mean? They had the money coming in, but I don't know what happened.
What it went to was probably getting the original series cast back together.
Well, yeah, that's another thing, I guess. So,
they probably asked, for a lot of money.
Well, Leonard Nimoy didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
I guess he was kind of sick of being typecast as Spock, and two, he was apparently upset about some unpaid royalties. I've heard. I don't know if that's for merchandise, toys, things like that. So basically, they had to beg him and pay him his unpaid royalties, I guess, to get him back.
Yeah. And this whole conflict with Leonard Nimoy actually led to him almost losing his opportunity to direct Star Trek 3.
Really?
But they were able to come to terms with everything, and I think there were some misunderstandings on both sides, and they were able to get their ducks in a row, and they let him direct Star Trek 3.
So how about this? If you could change Star Trek the motion picture, what would you change to make it, in your opinion, better?
I'd say maybe a little more original series throwback. Maybe some more, maybe the uniforms could have maybe looked a little more like enhanced versions of the original versions. Or maybe some kind of, transitional between what was in the original and what came in Star Trek 2. Something.
See, I think, though, because that was only
uniforms.
10 years later, I don't think there was quite that nostalgia for the original series like we have today, where they thought, we need to be modern with what's happening now.
I think it just would have made sense, though, in the terms of how much can you expect uniforms to change in a matter of 10 years? I mean,
I don't know.
If there's a system, because there was a system in the original series. Colors meant something. The ranks on the sleeves were done in a certain way.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect that to change as drastically as they did in the motion picture, only 10 years later.
So, kind of a side note, do you think it's weird that they changed the colors for Next Generation with what was up with that?
I don't know. I think maybe they might have realized that red is a cooler color than gold, and they're like, man, let's put the captain in red because red is powerful. Red is like a common color you see in a lot of comic book superheroes. I mean, red is gold is kind of meh.
Really?
I think.
Okay.
But I will say this as far as uniforms go. The engineering, the engineering uniforms, I would say, are spot on, fantastic.
Right.
And I'm glad they didn't I think they pretty much stayed the same throughout all 6 movies.
Those white things, with the circle thing, and the
one that Scotty wears in engineering.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's cool that basically it's like if they're working with more hazardous in a more hazardous area, that they should have some uniform that looks like it's to protect them from dangerous materials.
And they look
think
like
that's
they've got ports on them to do stuff.
Well, remember that one point they have those tubes that come out over that face mask, or they might have used that in Wrath of Khan over this movie, but it was in the costume.
And I don't know what is up with McCoy's huge collar.
Well, it's the 70s, man.
I mean, that was...
Well, it's kind of like, look at Luke Skywalker. He had that 70s shag haircut.
Yeah,
I mean, and Harrison Ford even kind of had, not as shaggy, but I mean...
Yeah.
I was watching this one, I was watching Star Trek 6 with commentary, Nicholas Meyer, and he was saying how you could take a movie, a period piece movie, and basically you could have, let's say, a movie that's set in the early 1900s, 1912, let's just say. And you can have a version of that movie that came out in the 30s, and a version that came out in the 70s, a version that came out in the 90s, and a version that came out this year. And you could tell, with a few years, give or take, which version of that movie, even though they're all set in the same time period, which one came out when. Every movie, even if a period piece or something that's in the future, it has something that shows
something dates it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not just talking like something the film quality, but like for instance,
just how the actors carry themselves.
Well, yeah, there's lots of stuff, but I mean, I think that was just probably a 70s thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
So, what else would you change?
What else would I change?
Take your time.
I'm thinking.
Right.
I'm kind of unprepared. I wasn't thinking about what I would change when I was.
Well, okay, then what else don't you not like about it?
Well, I will say the warp core looked fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And
I was actually going to say engineering looked great.
The warp core itself, though, I like how, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but the warp core on Voyager looks very similar.
Okay. I'd have to look again.
It's got like the tube with like the moving colors. It looks just like those two warp cores look very similar in my opinion. But let's see.
Are you a believer in the odd even rule?
I used to be.
Okay.
I'm kind of on the fence about it now. Like, okay, so 1 wasn't that great, 2 was supposedly very great, and then 3 wasn't that great again, and so it's like but then it's like you come to 4, And that's supposed to be the good one?
Well, hold on. Let me clarify in case anyone doesn't
and
know.
6 is good?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so 2 and 6 are good.
Okay, for those that don't know, there is a believed rule of thumb that all the odd number Star Treks are bad and all the even ones are good. I personally do not agree with that. In fact, one of my least favorite ones, I'll wait till we get to that one, is an even number one. And there's actually some of the odd ones that people think are just the worst. I actually enjoy quite a bit. But I don't know. I disagree with that. Because, 4, I didn't get into 4 that much.
No. Yeah, I mean, it had one good scene when it introduced the Enterprise A at the end.
Yeah.
And they had all, like, the little trial at the end of Kirk and company standing trial.
Right.
That was cool, but that was, like, that's the part I fast forward to. And
okay, well, then, you're basically going right to the end of the movie.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say earlier in the movie, when they enter the wormhole, what's up with Sulu's headrest suddenly rising up behind his head for no apparent reason? I
never noticed this.
Like it was clearly mechanized and happening automatically.
Really?
Like as soon as they went into like the wormhole, you can see it. His headrest is slowly going up.
I'll have to watch that again.
I don't even understand it. It was pretty weird.
Yeah, I would. I'd have to look at that again. I don't recall that at all.
And you were talking about the Borg stuff earlier.
Okay, yep.
Spock had another line.
Okay.
He said, perfect thought patterns. He sensed perfect thought patterns.
Okay.
That just kind of, to me, made me think of the hive mind.
Could he do that in the original series? Like, sense stuff? That's almost like Counselor
Troy
type stuff.
Well, that's what he did with, like, Nomad in the original series episode I was talking about. He mind melded with Nomad. Just like
by touching it, but like I guess I was kind of troubled by or confused by like in the beginning of the movie when he senses V'ger off in the distance. Like I didn't know Vulcans really could do that. Like I thought they could only.
Oh yeah, and in the original series, he sensed when there was a ship that was destroyed, and he sensed all the people's lives lost.
Really?
I don't remember.
I don't recall
like
that.
He went all Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Well, it more reminds me of Counselor Troy, like a Betazoid, where she could sense like great pain or whatever. I guess I just don't remember that in the original series.
So I have to mention though the sequences that I told you about earlier that I timed out.
Okay, let's
so
hear
there
it.
were 2 main sequences.
Okay.
At 1 hour and 9 minutes, and then again at 1 hour and 11 minutes. The first one, sitting through these sequences is just completely agonizing, and I think it's overkill. It would have. Here's a good improvement. I would have changed for the movie. I would have made these a whole lot shorter.
Okay.
The movie. Okay, so it would have improved the movie if there weren't as many of these.
Okay.
The one at 1 hour and 9 minutes.
Okay.
Lasted 1 minute and 35 seconds.
Of what? Just like effect shots?
Like of no dialogue. Like I timed it from when dialogue stopped and when dialogue started, and throughout those between when it stopped and started again. It was like random shots of outside, slow shots of like the Enterprise from behind, from above.
Well,
it
was definitely like the. It's supposed to be a big visual spectacle. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think it was very much.
And then again at 1 hour and 11 minutes, that one lasted even longer, 1 minute and 56 seconds. So almost 2 minutes again. Yeah. And so combining those two is. I need a calculator.
I got you, but like, I mean, but here's what I'm saying: is like,
and then you combine that with the Enterprise inspection where he's going on in the beginning.
I think that's at least 2 minutes, right?
And so it's just like those are hard for me to sit through.
Okay.
Because nothing's happening, and it's like I start fighting fatigue.
Okay, I mean, but here's the thing: like, why is it though that 2001: A Space Odyssey can do that and
No, I didn't like it in that movie either.
Okay, but I mean, by most people's opinion, like, for some reason it was okay in 2001, but not in the motion picture. Why is that, I wonder?
I would assume because it has the motion picture does have this reputation of having ripped off a little bit of Space Odyssey.
Oh, really?
And they kind of feel like, okay, you want to do 2001: A Space Odyssey, but the Star Trek version, and that's kind of the reputation the motion picture has. And it doesn't do the movie any good.
So are you one of those people that would, if someone said, I've never seen any Star Trek movies, you would tell them to skip this one, I'm guessing? Or would you say, hey, look,
I
to
would
truly
say-
appreciate the Wrath of Khan, why don't you watch the motion picture first so you'll really know how much better that movie is?
Yeah, I mean, I would give them the option. I'd say it's not important.
Mm-hmm.
You might hate yourself at the end of the movie for watching it and not being able to get that 2 hours back from
Yeah.
your life. I mean, I don't watch this movie for a good reason.
Okay.
Like, I remember watching this movie earlier this week in preparation for this podcast, and I remember thinking to myself, okay, I remember now why I stopped watching this movie.
Wow, really?
It's just such a bad
See,
movie.
I actually think I appreciated it a little more this time. And I don't know if that's from the theatrical cut. There were some of those scenes I thought were kind of cool that I wondered why they cut them.
Yeah.
Like, what is the name of that observatory, Dave?
I can't remember.
This is terrible of us.
I just can't remember. I
Well-
don't remember. But I will say again, earlier we were talking about uniforms, and I have a question though.
Okay.
Isn't it maybe another change I'd make for the movie?
Okay, let's hear it.
What is up with those belt buckles on their uniforms that actually have no belt? It's just like a plastic thing. It looks like a Power Ranger morpher that they could grab and say, "It's morphin' time, Starfleet."
Well,
Or so, I don't know. I don't even know what it is. It looks like they keep something in, like the TV remotes in there. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's completely distracting, I feel, and I was just wondering what that was all about. And
By the way, Epsilon 9.
Epsilon 9.
That's
okay,
the name of the
there we
station.
go.
Epsilon 9.
You got it.
I felt like,
Epsilon 9, where the uniforms look like 70s nightgowns.
well, I don't know. So
An Apple Watch.
Oh, well, hey,
They've got the Apple Watch.
There's a lot of Star Trek
You
stuff
know,
that later
decades before the actual
yeah,
Apple
you're
Watch
right.
came out.
There was a
They
lot
got
of
that.
stuff that they did
Which
that
was-
now
Yeah.
is kind of like a thing, but back then, just
Yeah.
it was fiction. But
Well, it's just weird to me because this is another thing that they brought back. They brought into as a plot device in this movie that was
Mhm.
never in the original series.
the
and
communicators.
and I don't think they ever had it again in future movies.
You talking about the watch communicator?
Yeah.
Actually,
In Wrath of Khan, maybe.
Wrath of Khan,
don't remember.
Captain, what's his name?
Yeah, okay,
T-
Captain what's his face?
No, yeah.
I don't remember his name. But
that guy, yeah,
so
he had one.
he
Yeah,
had
yeah.
the Apple Watch.
And I think didn't Khan actually use one too? I think he had one. Like he
I
probably
remember.
took for somebody.
I remember Captain what's his face. You're right. He had the Apple Watch.
Yeah. So I saw this one picture once where basically this is slightly off the topic, but so we're kind of talking about uniforms. Where they took the uniforms from the Wrath of Khan, but they colored the ones like obviously science officers and medical were blue, command was gold, engineering, security were red. Anyway, they took Spock and McCoy's uniform, but it's the Wrath of Khan uniforms. They made them blue.
I've seen that.
They made
Yeah, I've seen
Sulu and
It looked
Kurtz.
great.
I thought it looked good, and I kind of thought that really could have worked well if they would have kept the color scheme, but just the same uniforms, but just different colors.
I
Because
think
all that red does, I almost think it maybe is too much red.
I don't know. I mean, I do like the red. I really do. I feel like it. I don't know if this was intentional or
But
not.
for everyone to be in red,
yeah, like it makes me think of like the red coats, but for space.
the red coats. Well, I mean, yeah. I just wondered like if it might have looked a little bit cooler or something if they would have kept up with the.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been cool with the original series color scheme too, but I think the red really works because again, I was saying earlier, I think these people realized that red is like a powerful color,
Okay.
and I think that's what the decision.
Captain Terrell.
Captain Terrell, Captain
Captain
what's his face?
Yeah,
with
that's
Apple
Captain Terrell.
iWatch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, that's a lot of stuff that you don't like. I mean,
I don't like the movie, and I will say this in the director's cut
okay.
at 1 hour and 42 minutes, awesome shot of V'ger flying over the planet.
Well,
It's really cool.
I guess they never showed exactly what V'ger looked like in the theatrical cut, except I guess
You're
there was
right.
one computer screen of the Klingons where you can see an outline of what it looks like, and that's what they used as inspiration for the director's cut.
It does look pretty sweet in the director's cut, which I do hope someday, maybe, hopefully, comes out on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just still
I
on the
hope they
original
fix that
DVD
blue,
from
that blur effect if they do.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be fixing that.
Yeah.
I think that was an artistic choice that whoever, they'll be, like the people who remastered the original series.
Okay.
They respected the artistic choices of the original series producers and directors.
Yeah.
So, if they ever put this director's cut on Blu-ray, I think they'll probably be keeping that in there.
So
to not mess with things too much.
So
but with the director's cut though, I do enjoy some of the other things that you find in this version. Like there's a scene where they're in a room on the Enterprise and you see a warp cell.
the nacelle, yeah. But it does look dated now. I mean, to me that it does look very early 2000s, but that's okay. But yeah, I understand. What was I gonna say to you?
Yeah, I've got nothing else.
Come on.
I've spoken my
Okay,
piece
I
about
got
this lame movie.
Okay. So if Decker and Ilea merging is kind of like the first Borg to incorporate living with machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, if that is, I mean, again, you're still talking about stuff that's not actual.
Right. I get.
canon.
We're just speculating. So basically, they were both Starfleet.
You're talking about Ilea 2.0, right? With the glowing red stoma.
Yeah. She was already basically assimilated, but not as.
Who's also so hard to understand, by the way.
Yeah.
Like so much of the other dialogue in parts of the movie.
See, I could understand her all right, but okay. So if Decker and her and the machine version of her basically formed the first combo of a living machine, when did that thing become evil? Because obviously both of them were Starfleet officers, and they said that the V'ger probe scanned her so well that it had all the memories and all this stuff, and it knew who Decker was and all these kinds of things. So it wasn't necessarily evil, and obviously Decker wasn't evil. So when did they get to the point where they decided, hey, we're going to start assimilating people whether they want it or not? You know what I mean? Isn't that kind of where did that even come from?
I don't even know. That's a good point. I mean,
just down the road they just got to this point where they thought they were better and just started.
I don't know. It's just we're getting into a realm of pure speculation.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just fun.
I never really thought about it, honestly.
Okay, and what do you think about the fact that once V'ger, once they have that resolution, the V'ger ship just kind of disintegrates, and then the Enterprise is just there?
Yeah.
Wasn't
same
that
thing
weird?
happened in the director's cut.
Yeah, it's just weird though. Why would it just? It just literally broke into a bunch of dust, and then there's the Enterprise. Yay! I thought it was kind of weird. Don't you?
I have no answers for that.
I don't know. It's just
decision.
Yeah.
In the production of this movie, I don't know.
So that's the only nice things you can say about it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I like them. Here's a few more things I'll say that are nice about it. I really like the intro where you have the nice. I don't know if this is in both versions or if it's just in the director's cut.
Okay.
But there's this nice intro of a starfield passing by with the music playing.
Yeah, in the theatrical cut you hear the music, but it's just a blank screen.
Well, for the director's cut,
they added the stars. Right.
It's stars going by at warp speed.
Yeah.
And you hear the music playing.
Right.
But yeah, that's.
Well,
you know what? You know what's really cool? McCoy's beard. McCoy's beard is awesome.
Yeah.
I have beard envy because
I didn't know you were into beards.
Yeah, well, I appreciate them. I can't grow one.
Really?
Because it comes in all patchy and thin and blonde, and I look like an escaped convict or maybe a Vietnam vet.
Well, basically, that's what he looked like.
Yeah. So, that's that with the beard. I will say again, I think one of the best parts of the set design was the corridors. I really liked the corridors.
The corridors?
Yeah.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing.
There's some these cool they've got these white and metallic things going on in
Yeah.
the design, but you didn't really see that in like the bridge, or
Yeah.
you didn't really see that in like that giant like rec room they were in or whatever.
Okay,
I don't know.
I got something to say about the rec room. So, did you notice at one point when Kirk first gets on board, there's like this big, like, I'm assuming like some kind of shuttle that's carrying like supplies in, and it looks like the Enterprise is just humongous, which it is. But I thought it was weird when later when they were on the hull of the Enterprise, they actually seemed a lot bigger than I felt they should have. And it kind of made me feel like, how many people are supposed to be on the Enterprise? 400 something?
Give or take.
Okay, so 400 some people, but like when they were standing on the hull of the Enterprise, they looked like almost like if they were hanging off the side, like they could almost reach the bottom of the saucer section. So I was like, how is that many people?
Yeah.
I almost feel like they should have made them look smaller.
Yeah.
Because so you have that many people. I'm
That's
assuming
one good thing about the JJ versions of this. I mean, I know you're not a JJ fan.
You mean
but
Jar Jar Abrams?
They really do push like
the man
scale.
who ruined Star Trek.
The Enterprise in the JJ version is, you can tell this thing is like massive, and you can even see size, like Google a size comparison. Of
I know he made it bigger.
It's huge, like the biggest version of the Enterprise I've ever seen.
I know, yeah.
But that's another topic for another day.
I don't know. I think we just should stop at Nemesis. You know what I'm saying? Just stop. I don't think there's anything else after that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I am not a fan.
Denial is not just a river in Egypt, my friend.
I am not a fan of Jar Jar Abrams' take on Star Trek.
No,
my friend here
okay with it.
Is okay with it. Really? I thought you liked it a lot.
I do like it, but I like the Prime Universe more.
Well, not to get off topic on the motion picture, but to me, it's like I just think they should have put kind of like the way the Next Generation is 70 some almost 80 years after the original series. I think he should have jumped it another 50, 60, 70 whatever years, made it a whole new crew on a different ship, and he could have done whatever he wanted, and I would have said okay, fine. But the fact that
they don't want to be in a box, they want to start fresh with the universe,
it's
they don't want to have to deal with pre-established stuff
but they did that's pre-established characters.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, and here's another thing, not to get off topic.
Thinking.
Okay, so Nero goes back in time, right?
Oh no!
Right?
We're
okay.
Really getting off topic.
Yeah, we're getting off topic, but that's okay. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this now.
Well, okay.
Okay, go ahead. You first. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nero goes back in time, right?
Yes.
To this point in time, right?
Yes.
So in theory, everything
10 years prior to the original series, I think.
Okay, fine.
What it's supposed to be.
Very well. 10 years prior. So everything before that event should have been unchanged, correct?
Yeah. So that's like where the Starship Kelvin, Kirk's father was.
All that stuff.
His mother were
Very
on
well.
that ship. The Kelvin should have been.
You tell me why then. Why is Khan affected by Nero's?
No, that's the thing. They mentioned it. You didn't see Star Trek Into Darkness.
I did not see that movie.
They talk about that.
And I feel like a better man for it.
Well, they mentioned.
Okay, why did that change that event that happened?
They meant I don't remember. It's been a few years since I've actually sat down to watch Into Darkness.
Okay.
But they mentioned something about the events of the first JJ movie causing a more aggressive exploration of space.
And but Khan was from the 90s. Right, that should have never affected him.
No, they found Khan's ship much faster.
Right, but wasn't he in... But what I'm saying is he was still in cryosleep, right?
Yeah, and the Admiral... See, this is more from the movie.
Okay, then why did it change his race? Why did he go from a Mexican... type Indian man to a white man? Why would that change his race? You tell me that.
Because reasons.
Okay. You tell me why in the original series Pike and Kirk were roughly the same age, but also now Kirk is significantly younger.
Yep.
You tell me why.
Those are good points.
Yeah.
They're just, I think that they cover most of those things, but some of those other things, like the things you're mentioning, are not covered. You see, and I don't hate like his movies, but I do hate what he did with Star Trek. Choice. I think he was much better suited for Star Wars. I agree.
I think
the bridge of the JJ Enterprise looks like an Apple store.
I agree. And what was the other movie he did about the alien? Help me out.
Super 8.
Super 8. I liked that movie.
Didn't see it.
It was kind of like, in my opinion, it's like a little bit of the Goonies, a little bit of E.T. I liked it. But I did not. I saw. I think I've only seen the 2009 Star Trek 3 times.
Yeah.
And that was more than enough for me.
And you've never seen Into Darkness.
I've never seen Into Darkness.
And you don't plan on seeing.
I have
Star
no
Trek
intention
Beyond.
of seeing Beyond. However, if this guy here twists my arm for review purposes, I guess I will have to
watch Into Darkness and Beyond.
I guess, but I probably won't have anything good to say about it. But
I'll pay you I'll pay you in credits and tribbles.
How about Gold Press Platinum?
Yes. No, okay. So let's get back to the motion
picture. Okay.
So another thing I thought of that I liked.
Okay.
The modeling on the ships, very good modeling work.
You mean like the way they filmed it, or the actual detail?
The
of
actual
ship?
detail that the people did the models went into.
Yeah.
Very well done. I don't know if you noticed this though. You probably did notice this.
Okay.
The Enterprise departure scene, exactly the same in Star Trek 2. It's recycled.
Yeah. That not only that part. The part where the shuttle docks with the Enterprise, just obviously they don't show it's way shorter, and they don't show the front of it because obviously there's a few different people in it. The Klingon ships for the Kobayashi Maru is the same footage.
A lot of stuff was
and that
recycled.
Was budget. Yeah, that was they paid so much for the motion picture that basically it's like they wanted to get their money's worth, I guess. And I don't really have a problem with it. I didn't notice that for the longest time.
No, I didn't either. I didn't notice.
I never had a problem with it.
I didn't notice it until more recently. But
yeah. But, you know, I don't know. It just surprises me how much you hate this movie. I thought you liked all Star Trek.
I like this movie the least.
Really?
Of all the Star Trek movies.
Really?
I will gladly sit through Star Trek 4 multiple times. If that means I never have to watch this movie again.
Okay, how about this? Don't you think that Star Trek 4 kind of ripped off of this one with this whole giant probe ship thing that comes to Earth?
Well, okay.
That was kind of a ripoff.
Kind of. But I really do feel like Star Trek the Motion Picture is the ugly duckling of all the Star Trek movies. It stands apart, not in a good way, in my opinion.
I mean, like I said, I'm not saying it's my favorite because it's not.
Now,
I don't think it's as bad as that.
It was a good way to revive the franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, I see what they were trying to do with trying to get the movies started and trying to get Star Trek back to life, and I see that they were trying to go through this. They were trying to go for this, big budget 2001 type vibe, and it just which, I mean, I think it worked for the time, but I think if I was a 30-something-year-old in the 70s going to see this movie opening night at the theater, I would probably have some of the same complaints. Like, this was too far removed from the original series.
Okay.
There's too much dead time. I don't want to see that much of V'ger.
Yeah.
I think I would want something more.
Well, did you know this was actually somewhat of a unplanned script for the Phase 2 show?
Yes, I know
this
that.
was that.
I know that.
And obviously the Riker-Troy relationship was inspired off the Decker-Ilia.
Yeah. The Phase 2 uniforms also looked very similar.
Did they see? I thought to the original series. I thought you were going to say to the motion picture.
To the original series.
Yeah.
Yes. They might have been identical. I can't exactly remember.
Yeah, I've not seen much actual video footage, but what I have seen, it does look similar. So, oh man, there was something I was going to point out. Darn you, Dave. Darn you.
I've got nothing else to say about this movie.
Hold on, I have something to say, and I just got to think of it. So you just talk while I think. Yeah, I guess I just didn't realize you were that against it.
I do not like this movie. I just don't. It sits on my shelf because I have brand loyalty.
Brand loyalty, that's
good.
But
other than that, I don't watch it unless I absolutely have to.
Huh. Wow, I never knew this about you.
Yep.
I would be interested in seeing some of the lost footage of the Phase 2. I know there is a clip of Kirk.
Did they ever finish filming it? I wonder if there could ever be like a release of it somehow.
I don't know. If you look on YouTube, you can find there's a clip of like Kirk and some crewman. I don't know, some new guy.
I wonder what the aspect ratio was of filmed. If it was filmed like
I'm sure
like
it's the 70s. I'm sure it was.
Well, like a square, like a TV show from the 60s, like the original series, or
I don't remember, but I would guess
16:9, like a movie. Like the rectangle.
I would think that wouldn't 70s TV still have that same aspect ratio?
probably.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
just didn't know if it was meant for movie or meant for TV. I can't recall.
no, it was TV definitely.
Okay.
But like, well, did you know that? Okay, the guy at Epsilon 9, the one that says it's 82 or 2 AUs in size, that was supposed to be the new Vulcan. Do you know that he was going to be the new Spock?
Oh, okay.
For the show because Leonard Nimoy wasn't going to come back. So basically, he was going to be a full Vulcan where Nimoy was half.
Oh, and by the way, the whole thing about Spock, but with Leonard Nimoy and having had like a conflict with Paramount, that was a perception that people had. One of the reasons they almost didn't let him direct Star Trek 3 was because they were like, "You hate Star Trek."
But I mean, he definitely wasn't going to come back because
you wrote a book called "I Am Not Spock."
I don't know if he had written it by that point, but
no, he wrote it after Star Trek 2. I think.
Right, but I'm saying for the motion picture, it was mostly, I guess, these unpaid royalties that he.
Right.
I don't know, like again, if that was action figures or
I don't know.
His Star Trek lunchbox or whatever, but basically he was unhappy with these unpaid royalties, and that was part of it. But
so, yeah, that's how the cookie crumbles.
So we are going to try to do these as often as we can. It is kind of hard for us to get together. We don't just want to do Star Trek, although Star Trek is probably the big one. Like I said, we there's a lot of types of movies we're into. We don't have a Facebook or Twitter right now, and I'm not up on that at all. So if Dave decides to do that,
I'll probably be making some social media pages here soon. A Facebook, maybe a Twitter. I don't know about Instagram. I don't know, because Instagram's more about photos, and this is a podcast.
The only thing that we do have right now is just a generic email. It is escapepodcast16@gmail.com. The 16 stands for 16 because I couldn't think of anything clever because it was already, I couldn't take Escape Podcast, so I think it was started in 2016.
You had to do that. I get it.
Yeah, so 16 so Escape Podcast 16@gmail.com. You can email us any suggestions, criticisms, anything we got wrong, anything you would like us to cover, and we will try to do these as often as possible. Like I said, we're not sure how often it's going to be. As of yet, we're still trying to figure out the format. We're still having some technical issues. We are recording on one mic right now, so really close to
we are finding our footing. And
I was actually finding your feet. My feet were... I felt your leg right there a few times. I had to adjust. I don't know if you can pick that up as I was trying to squirm away from you.
My butt is numb.
Yeah, we are sitting on the floor of your living room.
In a house with no air on a hot day. And it is muggy.
But also some of the things I think we talked about trying to do was, besides just like a movies all the time, was maybe stuff like best and worst remakes, best movies of a specific decade, maybe best worst of directors, top time travel movies, dream sequels.
I'll be talking about my Star Trek Blu-rays.
Oh yeah, tell me about your Blu-rays.
I finally got my Blu-rays of the original series.
Okay.
It just came out like last week or the week before. It's like a repackaging of the 2009 Blu-rays, which came out. A lot of good special features, most of which I had never seen before, but it's new to me, but it's not actually new. So I'll be talking about that more in the future, in future podcasts.
I just kind of a side thing. I got it's the Art Asylum Diamond Select. Those, it's like they do like a lot of like comic book and movie stuff, and I got the Enterprise B from my wife, which was it looks just like, for those who know, it looks just like the Excelsior, which you'll see in Star Trek 6, but the
slightly
USB
modified.
There's a few differences, but it also it's the ship that's in Star Trek Generations. But it looks really cool. It's actually a really sharp ship. But
Sean, the ship is sharp.
The floor's on fire.
And shows the
chair. Anyway, I guess we'll call it a wrap for now. So thank you for listening, and we'll catch you later.
Peace.